McGraw-Hill Professional presents Unstoppable Confidence. How to use the power of NLP to be more dynamic and successful. Written by Kent Sayer, Certified Neuro-Linguistic Programming Trainer. Narrated by A.T. Chandler. Introduction. This book is both a product and a document of my transformation from being an extremely shy person to becoming one with a lot of confidence. I know that if I can do it, anyone can break out of his or her shyness and become more confident. I was truly the shyest person I had ever met. Even if you already have a lot of confidence now, you can benefit from this book by stretching your confidence beyond what you thought was even possible. My purpose for writing this book is to help everyone who hears it immediately increase his or her confidence through doing the exercises and adopting the philosophy that is described throughout the book. When I was extremely shy and lacking in confidence, I had to take the long road to self-assurance. Through trial and error, I've found what works, what doesn't work, and what really works. Much of what works is based on the principles of neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP. NLP. NLP is the study of how language, both verbal and nonverbal, affects our minds. By consciously directing our minds, we can create resourceful ways of behaving for ourselves. In this book, all of the methods are geared toward having more confidence in our lives and stepping beyond our previously defined limits. One of the principles of NLP is that since we all share the same neurology, whatever anyone else can do well, you can do just as well, provided that you direct your mind in exactly the same way. If confidence is possible for others, and it definitely is, it is equally possible for you too. Using NLP methods, I have constructed models of very confident people and included my behavioral research in this book. By doing what they do, you will achieve the same resourceful state of confidence that they enjoy. From the way they think, to the way they talk, to the way they walk. In this book, you will find out how people with confidence move through the world and how the world responds. How it works. This book differs from the other self-help books on the shelf because it is not about theory. It is about doing what works. It is about finding what has worked for others who are confident, figuring out how to do that, and then doing it yourself. Many of the fluff motivation books on the market remind me of someone blowing up a really big balloon and then letting it go. We both know what happens to the balloon. It flies all around the room aimlessly until it returns to its original shriveled-up shape on the ground. Filling yourself up with motivation is great, yet motivation must ultimately come from within. There is a difference between someone telling you to go for it and someone telling you to go for it and also supplying the specific tools to do exactly that. This book is not based on theory. It is based on proof and what really works. I'm on the street trying this stuff out and learning from my mistakes. The beauty of this book is that you can learn from the mistakes I made in the course of doing what it took to get unstoppable confidence and prospering from my knowledge. You can take what works from this book and use it in your own life. Discard what doesn't work for you. Some techniques you'll like, some you may not, and some you will love. But try it. Do the techniques and prove it to yourself. The techniques discussed in this book are no-nonsense, street-tested, immediately applicable tools for your empowerment. I'll give you specific instructions on how and when to use these tools in your life. These techniques are so effective because they take what has worked, what does work, and what will work, and break it down into small, learnable strategies that you can use to help yourself. When you learn these strategies, you will be able to duplicate the same results. At the same time, we throw away the useless techniques that have kept you stuck. I will go over the techniques that keep people stuck so you can notice whether you are engaging in one of those activities and immediately shift gears. If you are looking for pie-in-the-sky theory, put this book down immediately. If you want to wade through a jargon-filled muddle, stop listening right now. If you want academic techniques that work only sometimes and only if you follow complicated procedures, you will not find them here. All you will find here is unstoppable confidence. Part 1. Getting in Gear. Chapter 1. Why Confidence Matters. Without self-confidence, we are as babes in the cradles. Virginia Woolf. Confidence matters more than almost anything else in determining your success. Therefore, it's necessary that you understand exactly how important it is. Why confidence is important. Confidence is vital because it is the difference that makes the difference. When people consistently take action and make the appropriate course corrections, they get massive results and achieve all their goals. However, if they lack the confidence to take action, they will stay stuck. It would be no different if they had no dreams or goals at all. After all, what's the point of wishing for anything if you don't pursue it? Having confidence, especially when it comes to having the ability to communicate, is absolutely essential. Without it, people don't communicate effectively. The degree to which you are confident and communicate well with others is the degree to which you will succeed in life, no matter what context you're referring to: business, family, friends, career, and so on. It is directly proportional to the degree to which you will experience a rewarding and fulfilling life. We are naturally drawn to confident people. Imagine what it would be like to have people coming up just wanting to meet you simply because you are so confident that you automatically make an impression in their minds as being somebody different. Imagine how it feels to exude an attractive energy, one that radiates out and attracts people to you. Confident people appear more credible. Being confident will immediately turbocharge your success in your business and your relationships because you will come across as more credible. If someone asks you a question, you will look him or her straight in the eye, have confident physiology, and answer in an authoritative tone. It took a few blown real estate deals for me to learn this lesson the hard way. After all, if you don't project that you believe in yourself, how are investors supposed to believe in you? Confidence can make your dreams come true. Right now, as I write this book, I'm actually dictating it into an audio cassette recorder on a beautiful Thursday afternoon in Oregon. I hear the geese quacking in the background. There's a beautiful blue sky reflecting off a lovely pond. It's a puffy clouds kind of day where you just want to relax and enjoy yourself. It is because of using the techniques I'm prescribing that I'm able to do so. My journey to unstoppable confidence. Now, before you think that I was always this confident, let me tell you my story. I share this miserable tale of shyness to let you know that no matter how shy or unconfident you are now, you can improve and become more confident. My shy self. I had always been shy as a child and continued as a shy young adult. I had a small, select group of close friends my entire life, but I never found enough confidence to introduce myself to a stranger. This led to serious difficulties for me in dating and relating to women. My friends and I excelled in school. It was our main focus. Yet in the back of my mind, I knew I was missing out on something when all the other people in high school were going out on dates. I thought to myself that I must be different or that something must be wrong with me. Consequently, I found myself rationalizing that I could be a great Lothario if I chose to, but that my main area of concentration and excellence was school. However, deep down, I secretly desired to trade places with some of the other kids, just to experience what it was like to go on a date, or even be comfortable with someone of the opposite sex. The more I thought about how much fun they were having, hanging out, and having normal teenage experiences, the worse I felt about myself. It was as if I lacked the ability to really connect with another person at a deep level. Searching for a way to escape, I turned to studying even harder and burying myself in books. At the time, it was all I knew how to do. Now, in reflection, I can easily see that there were other choices available at all times. We always have options, and it's important to be able to recognize as many of them as possible, and then naturally decide for ourselves which option suits us best. In 4 years of high school, I went on exactly one date. Of course, it wasn't me who initiated it. The girl approached me after class one day and asked me if I wanted to hang out with her one night. Smiling broadly and trying to contain my overwhelming enthusiasm at this incredible, unprecedented event, I gladly accepted. Later in the week, she called me, and we set the date for the following Friday. When that night came, she picked me up, and we went to a fast food restaurant nearby. All throughout dinner, the conversation was strained as she tried her best to pry me loose from my shy shell. Every time I began to come out of the shell, I automatically retreated back into it, simply because of my dreadful habit of shyness. She did her absolute best to talk with me and have a good time. Still, I could tell she saw my shyness as an obstacle to getting to know each other. My saving grace was that I smiled a lot and reciprocated every question she asked me. The conversation went better as long as she did the talking. After we finished dinner, she drove us up to a mountainous lookout point with a beautiful view of the city. It was a clear night with the stars illuminating the sky. She asked me for suggestions on what I wanted to do, but I was too shy to suggest anything for fear of rejection. I didn't really understand the meaning of this field trip. Only later did I learn from other high school friends that the place we went to was the designated makeout spot. While I was able to maintain good eye contact with the young lady, sometimes there were pauses in the conversation that seemed like an eternity to me. And at these times my internal dialogue came alive, as if it were an annoying younger sibling whose life mission was to prevent me from enjoying myself. Does she want me to kiss her? What if I have some gunk in my teeth? If I kiss her, how should I do it? Does she really like me? Is she bored with me? What should I say next? Why are we really here? What does it mean? What should I do next? Do I look at the stars outside the car with her? Should I hold her hand? My goodness, she sure is pretty. Is she noticing me turning red with embarrassment? How come I'm so darn shy? Do I want to kiss her? When should I do it? The internal dialogue continued on and on like that for the entire night. No wonder I could not hold a conversation with her. How could I when I was so busy having a conversation with myself? None of my attention was left over to talk with her. After an hour more of forced conversation, she finally dropped me off at home and offered a handshake in lieu of repeating one of our previous awkward episodes. Through the high school gossip grapevine, I found out that the young woman had recently broken up with her long-term boyfriend and immediately called to ask me out. And I wondered if it was really a coincidence that we had gone to the restaurant where he worked. Was she hoping he'd be there? My ultimate conclusion was that she was just trying to make him jealous and have him find out about our date, even though she did seem interested in me. People thought my inaction and unwillingness to initiate activities with others was because I was antisocial, aloof, indecisive, reactive, and generally unfriendly. What I found most painful was that I wanted to be social, proactive, decisive, and friendly. Only at the time I did not know how. That was the most frustrating part, behaving as if I were trapped in a shell and unable to be who I really was all along. My college years. Now, as you've heard about my ultra shyness in high school, you may be thinking that it couldn't get any worse. It did. Since I was so good at being shy, I really outdid myself in college. The more the years passed, the more I found my inability to be confident a glaring weakness. My roommates meant well when they would try to get me to drink to loosen up. Their hearts were in the right spot, God bless them. They knew I was stiff and very shy. Instead of hanging out with them and drinking and socializing, I would while away my time on the computer, chatting with strangers through email. How could I turn down the opportunity to hang out with my friends and instead chat with strangers halfway around the world? I rationalized it by saying I did not hang out with my roommates because I didn't drink. I didn't know I could still socialize with them if I was not drinking. That option, easily the most obvious choice now, never even crossed my mind. One night, after a few too many beers, my roommates and their friends spotted me screwing around on the computer and decided to get me to loosen up. Their mission henceforth was to get me drunk as a skunk. They proceeded to apply some very persuasive peer pressure, inviting me upstairs to where a party was being held. Being flattered that they even recognized me, I finally said yes, and resolutely stated that I would not drink, though. After getting upstairs and getting into the midst of the party, one of my generous roommates handed me an orange juice and said to drink up. In a state of gratitude for all the attention, I chugged it. The next thing I knew, I was feeling tipsy and really relaxed. My lips wouldn't stop moving, and I was having lots more fun. Through what I eventually realized was a semi-drunken stupor, I figured out that the orange juice was spiked with alcohol. However, I was finally feeling accepted, so I chose to drink some more. It was my first experience with alcohol, and I found that I quite liked being able to drink to the point of obvious inebriation, since it allowed me to relax and stop being shy temporarily. After that great first drinking experience, I decided I liked it and did it a lot more. When the weekend came, I talked to a number of people to find out where the party was being held. Once at the party, I proceeded to get seriously drunk. My faulty logic was that if one beer was good, then 2 beers would be even better. By following this logic, I was drunk in no time. And simultaneously I transformed myself from a shy wallflower who spoke to no one into a raving, whirling dervish of a humorous drunk who spoke to people, told jokes, laughed loud and long, and had a great time. It was at these parties that my friends had to tell me it was time to go home, but I never wanted to leave. This was my escape from my shy self, and I wanted it to last as long as possible. I needed it to last as long as I could make it. That was why I would metaphorically play the doctor, prescribing alcohol to myself as a self-medication for my shyness. At this point in time, you may be wondering whether one of the unstoppable confidence techniques is to get sloshed and drown out your shyness with alcohol. The answer is no. It's just at that time, I didn't realize there were other ways to overcome shyness. As a result of these parties, I woke up in strange places, forgot what I had done the previous night when I was drunk, and felt miserable with a hangover. Still, in my mind, drinking was my ticket out of shyness. What I hadn't realized was I had other options. But without these other options to be more confident, I did the best I could with what I knew, and that, unfortunately, was to drink to excess. One day, after having a miserable hangover, I crossed the threshold and knew it was time to stop. I decided there had to be another way. After all, I had seen other people who behaved confidently without resorting to getting smashed. I decided I'd find out just what it was that they were doing. My search for solutions. I began searching for answers. I found myself reading a number of self-help books. From each of these self-help books, I gained a little knowledge or a useful exercise to enhance my confidence in myself and allow me to relax in the presence of others. Finally, I promised myself that I would become confident in whatever I wanted to do. I was fiercely determined to gain confidence. Ultimately, it was the experience of breaking out of my shell that made it possible. Specifically in my case, it was talking to women. I decided that I would approach every single woman I saw. At first, I would simply smile at them. And you know what? They responded. Not all of them, but enough to encourage me to expand my comfort zone a little further. This small success catapulted me to the next step in expanding my comfort zone. Next, I would approach women and simply say, "Hi." Again, this slight widening of my comfort zone encouraged me. After all, I was an adult and had to take care of my confidence myself. I had 2 choices. I could either retreat back to my comfort zone and be shy, blaming someone else for making me that way, or I could take responsibility and go for it. When my confidence really grew, I got to the point where I could meet women and gain instant rapport with them, conversing with them at ease. Follow your dreams. Confidence ultimately gave me the ability to leave my job and start my own business. Confidence is what I needed to follow my dreams, and I'm sure that as you listen to this, you can find your own reasons why it's important for you to go out and find your own dreams. Picture your idea of bliss. What does it look like? What does it sound like? Who are you with? How much fun are you having? What time do you get up? What time do you go to sleep? Do you take a nap because you can? No matter what your dreams are, when you use the techniques in this book, you'll develop the unstoppable confidence to go after those dreams and make them a reality. By keeping your vision in mind, imagining it vividly and regularly, you automatically teach your unconscious mind to lead you to that day. And won't that day be wonderful? Chapter 2. Origins of a Lack of Confidence. Courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not absence of fear. Mark Twain. Up until now, how have you thought of yourself? Were you shy like I was? Were you tentative? A lack of confidence usually comes from one of the following areas: society at large, your parents, school and your peers, mass media. In addition, you may have become shy because of hypersensitivity, or even because you believe you were born that way. In this chapter, we'll explore the reasons you may lack confidence. In the process, we'll debunk the false premises behind these reasons. If you have children, we'll discuss how you can prevent shyness from happening to them. You'll instill unstoppable confidence in them. Society. In many ways, society conditions people to go with the flow, to accept what is offered, and not to make any waves. Sometimes this is falsely interpreted as advice to not follow your dreams. If you need to step outside of what is normal and usual to pursue your dreams, then do exactly that. Parents. Parents can be major contributors to a lack of confidence. Throughout life, their purpose is to teach their children and help them to experience their full potential, to be who they were meant to be. Yet sometimes parents strip away the child's individuality and inadvertently instill what the child perceives as limitations. Parents often try to get kids to conform to the view of what they think is correct. How many times have you heard the following phrases? Act like a grown-up. Stop acting childish, as if that were a bad thing. Be realistic. Get your head out of the clouds. You're such a dreamer. You can't do that. No one has ever done that before. Parents usually have positive intentions motivating their behavior, yet sometimes they don't communicate that. Take the phrase, act like a grown-up. What does it mean? To have all the limits most adults do? To not play and experience pure joy like a child? To not learn, wonder, or explore? If that's acting like a grown-up, I'd rather pass. Or consider the phrase, stop acting childish. The notion of exploring, laughing a lot, and learning a lot is really what life is all about. So it would seem that kids have the right idea after all. By this definition, acting childish is the natural state of humans. What about the notion of being realistic? What does this really mean? Realistic according to whom? How specifically should I be realistic? The phrase is ludicrous, and calling people dreamers or telling them to get your head out of the clouds does not help them. It only instills limits in them and helps to bring them back into a bind of what is socially acceptable. School. School has a huge influence over children. We're mandated to go. Teachers are powerful authority figures, and peer pressure is extremely high. We're all taught to fit in. Everyone wants to fit in. So how does school create a lack of confidence? One factor is peer pressure. Some kids make fun of anyone who does anything differently. School can also divide kids into different learning tracks, which is most unfortunate. Kids can be quite intelligent, much smarter than we typically give them credit for. They understand the labels that go with different learning tracks, and they integrate these into their identities. The students labeled slow integrate this as a belief. I stink at math. And these beliefs help shape their reality and their whole way of being. A research study in the 1960s showed how powerfully expectation influences performance. One teacher was told her class of students was exceptional, but in reality it was a standard cross-section of students. This exceptional class performed exceptionally that year, and the teacher commented on how eager the students were to learn and how much she enjoyed teaching them. The next year, another normal cross-section of students was in her class. This time, the experimenters told her that these students were poor performers. As expectation and beliefs create reality, the poor students performed awfully. The same teacher who had just had the exceptional students the prior year remarked how awful these students were, how much they hated learning, and how hard they were to teach. We can take this same idea and project only positive expectations onto our own children. Furthermore, we can expect excellence from all the people we interact with. It will surprise you to learn how often people will rise up to whatever standards you set for them. Mass media. A lack of confidence can also come from the media. Mainstream media is funded by advertising, and ultimately it is out to get people to consume. Network television programming is free because advertisers give the networks large amounts of money in order to introduce their products to a captive audience. Terrestrial radio is free for the same reason. Individuality is dangerous to these advertisers because when you think for yourself, you can decide for yourself whether the product is right for you or not. You won't be buying for the sake of conformity and keeping up with the Joneses. It is to the advertiser's benefit if you lack confidence. They use tactics such as telling you that everyone else has the product and therefore you must need it as well. They teach you to feel bad if you don't have their products. They teach you that life can become an instant party if you consume their products. My favorite example of this is the stereotypical beer commercial. You watch a less than healthy guy watching TV endlessly and see him given a beer. You already know what happens next, at least according to the commercial. Life instantly becomes a party. Beautiful women swoon over him, and he realizes he has his dream sports car. He is vacationing on a tropical island, and he can forget about any of life's ordinary troubles. It behooves the media to do this to sell more products. Hypersensitivity. Sometimes being overly sensitive can lead to shyness. People can become afraid of doing anything for fear of offending someone or getting in trouble. Being super sensitive may be useful in some contexts, such as when you want to really empathize with another person. But if a person is super sensitive all the time, then it becomes detrimental. I know this because I used to be hypersensitive. I never spoke up, never stepped outside my comfort zone, and never did anything that might have the remotest possibility of aggravating people. This occurred as a result of my incapacitating fear. I figured that since I was so sensitive, others must be the same way. Therefore, I decided it was necessary to tiptoe around people so as to manage their feelings. Only later did I discover what nonsense this turned out to be. It's important to be sensitive to a point, yet at the same time, you need to have confidence to do what it takes to achieve your goal. People are remarkably resilient. If you have confidence and accidentally hurt someone's feelings, there's a very simple remedy. You apologize, resolve to not do that again, and move on. It's really very simple. The myth of the shy gene. Some people label themselves as having a shy gene, which brings me to the myth of genetic shyness. Many people simply accept their shyness and rationalize it by saying, "That's just the way I am." What a loaded phrase. These people need to stop saying that. It's as if they're chanting a negatively reinforcing mantra. The real secret is that it's a broken affirmation that keeps people stuck. The affirmation, "Every day and in every way I'm getting better and better," is a famous affirmation by Emile Coué, an early self-help pioneer. "I'm shy because that's the way I am" also works as an affirmation, but it should be appended with the statement, "according to me." You can decide that you were born with shyness, sure, but you can also decide to break free from it. The myth that a person simply is or is not shy is one of the worst myths ever passed on from disempowered people to other disempowered people. Believing that your parents were shy, which caused you to be shy, is no excuse. The same goes for your kids. People do not become shy automatically when they're born. There is no shyness gene. People become shy because they've learned to behave and act in a certain way. When I was shy around people, it was because I was in the habit of looking at a person and thinking he or she won't like me. This thought always left me feeling bad inside, picturing the person rejecting me, and then feeling an immense and paralyzing fear. That was simply the way I learned to behave. I only knew one way of behaving, but fortunately, I found more choices. Your parents may or may not have influenced you to become shy, but that's different from them inflicting you with some untreatable genetic disease, which is really what it means when people say, "That's just the way I am." The truth about shyness. Let me tell you about the myth of "I'm shy." It's an excuse that enables people to stay stuck. Shy is not a trait, it's only a way of acting. If you can act one way, that means you can act another way too. Shy is a behavioral mode. It's not an adjective that describes a person. It's not a state of being. It's a way of acting. You can behave in a confident manner too. You always have that choice. People locked into the "I'm shy" excuse don't realize they have the choice. Consider this. If you could choose your identity, if you could choose the way you see yourself, then would you deliberately label yourself as shy, as a person lacking confidence, as hesitant, or anything less than glorious? Absolutely not. And yet, that's unfortunately what so many people do when they say, "I'm shy," or "I'm just not confident," or anything else of that nature. Therefore, it's important to avoid the phrase, "I'm shy." Worse than saying, "I'm shy," though, is talking about shyness as if it's some sort of disease or disorder. Yeah, he has a case of shyness. She has shyness disorder. That is the most ridiculous thing ever. If I walk into a room of shy people and a bug that's flying around bites me, do I become shy too? No. That is downright absurd. People don't go walking along one day and go, "Ugh," and crumple to the ground and then get diagnosed with shyness. Fear and FEAR. Have you ever watched kids play? They really know how to dig in and thoroughly enjoy themselves. When they're having a good time, kids totally embrace whatever they're doing at the moment with joyful abandon. Kids are true dreamers. Children, in essence, have not been trained to see their own limitations the way adults have. In fact, children enter this world with only two natural fears: the fear of falling, the fear of loud noises. Aside from these, all other fears are learned. Human beings are magnificent at learning. Because you have learned to fear other things aside from the only two natural fears, you can naturally empower yourself to move past your fear by learning new ways of behaving. A study was conducted among adults to research their greatest fears, and the fear of public speaking rated higher than the fear of death. This is irrational. Being more afraid of public speaking than of death is a direct result of learning to fear something that does not need to be feared. Fear can be characterized by the acronym FEAR, meaning false evidence appearing real. When people realize that public speaking is simply a process and not a life or death event, the false evidence disappears, and with it goes the fear. With the fear gone, people can be their naturally confident selves. Confidence as our natural state of being. A state of confidence should be our natural state of being. The fact is that when we're born, we are simply not self-conscious. It's not like we pop out of the womb and say, "Oh, I'm naked. Could somebody please get me some clothes here? Oh, I'm shy now. Oh no, everybody's looking at me and I'm naked." Children are already in their natural state of being, absolutely confident, full of wonder, and ready to explore the world around them. What if we were to adopt that same childlike attitude for going after what we wanted in the world? When you were first born, did you immediately stand up and start walking around as though it were completely normal to you? Obviously, you did not. Neither did I, and neither did anyone else. In learning how to walk, children take the attitude, "Hey, I'm going to do this walking thing. I see others around me doing it, and I know I can do it too. I'm going to persevere. It doesn't matter how many times I fall down. It only matters that I keep getting up." If you get the chance, watch kids as they begin to walk. They crawl around, stand up, wobble around, fall down, and then do it all over again. Kids continue doing this until they learn how to consistently walk. Nothing will stop them from learning how to walk. When you have this same attitude in going after your goals, nothing will stop you from achieving them. What if kids were infected with the same useless attitudes that some adults have? If we try something and it doesn't work, we just give up. We'd have all these people who refuse to walk just because they didn't get it down perfectly when they were kids. They tried it once and it didn't work, so they gave up. They decided they weren't walkers. Can you picture a little baby with his arms crossed, pouting, scowling intensely just because he took the lackadaisical adult attitude that if something doesn't immediately work, then it's time to give up? Can you imagine a little baby saying in a snooty manner, "Walking isn't for me. I do other things. I've tried it once and it's really not all that it's cut out to be." Fortunately, kids keep on going and going until they master the skills. We as adults can learn from them and keep the same attitudes that children have toward learning. Chapter 3. What is confidence? All our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. Walt Disney. In order to understand what confidence is, it's necessary to define both what it is and what it is not. Once we are on the same page as to what confidence is and isn't, we can move forward toward gaining unstoppable confidence. What confidence is not. Confidence means many different things to many different people. Similarly, confidence also evokes certain feelings and automatic reactions within people. Before we go any further in shedding light on what confidence is, we will discover what it is absolutely not. Arrogance versus confidence. Sometimes arrogance is mistaken for confidence. They're not the same things, folks. Arrogance is either a honed reaction or an affectation, but whatever it is, it's definitely something completely different from confidence. Arrogance leans toward elitism, being macho, showing off, and so on. Have you ever seen those really huge guys with bulging muscles? The ones who are overdeveloped to the point that they find it necessary to thrust their chests way out and swagger in the utmost cocky way? This is an example of arrogance, not true confidence. It's as if they consider themselves better than everyone else solely because they're so large. True confidence comes from within, and when you realize you are confident, you do not feel the need to proclaim it to the world. Now, contrast the example of arrogance with the following example of true confidence. Stop for a moment and consider the famous muscular movie stars Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. These guys do not go around with puffed-up chests thinking they're better than everyone else. Instead, they have a quiet but powerful confidence that comes from an acute awareness of their abilities. This is a major difference, and we'll explore this further later in the book. It is never necessary to shout from the mountaintops in order to convey that you are a confident individual. The people who do so are hardly ever as confident as they try to appear. I have met many people who are confident and many people who lack confidence. The truly confident people all had a similar trait. Their confidence came from within, and it did not have to be voiced. A nonchalant, matter-of-fact confidence is ideal. There is no need to brag about one's accomplishments. Those who brag are only masking their insecurity about themselves. Allow your results to speak for themselves. Actions speak louder than words, so take your confidence and make it happen. If someone has to continually broadcast his or her confidence, it really makes me wonder. It seems that this person is not really that confident at all. Instead, the person is often trying to convince himself or herself by proclaiming it to others. In his or her own mind, this helps make it official, but the person is trying to gain confidence in an ineffective manner. Confidence comes from within, and when you believe in yourself, others will believe in you too. This is a universal law and a secret known to all leaders. It does not work the other way around, no matter how much we would prefer it to. There are far easier and more effective ways to skyrocket your confidence than waiting for others to believe in you. You will learn them later on in this book. Belligerence versus confidence. Now let's talk about the difference between belligerence and confidence, using relationships as an example. Sometimes women are apparently attracted to jerks. I'm sure that many of us have seen examples of this in our lives, or perhaps know someone who is currently in this situation. On the surface, the jerk exhibits some bad boy traits that some women may perceive as confidence. The jerk has probably convinced himself that he has it all going on. What masquerades as confidence in the jerk is just belligerence, which presents itself in the form of a super aggressive attitude. You can and should always assert yourself whenever you deem it necessary. However, this does not mean bullying people, treating them badly, or trampling over them. Belligerence is what makes a jerk just that. The jerk is abrasive and cares little for the relationships he forms with others. Instead, he chooses to bulldoze his way through life. True confidence, however, allows you to go through life easily, to efficiently get the results you want, and to make people feel good when you deal with them. Make people feel good, even if it's for no other reason than just because you can. True confidence comes from within. Take a moment and think of an area of your life where you may be confident. Ask yourself this question. How do you know that you are proficient at, name your area? And being completely honest with yourself, supply an answer. If you absolutely know that you are proficient in the area you chose because your own thought or feeling or belief system told you so, congratulations, you are really confident in that area. If you were not sure about your proficiency in your area, or if you had to rely on external confirmation from your peers, spouse, or supervisor, you are not yet as confident as you can be. By the end of this book, after doing the exercises, you will be right there. When you have done all the exercises and completed this book, you will have the true confidence that comes from within. Confidence, or a lack thereof, is a reality across all demographics, across all races, all economic levels, all religions. There will always be some people who are confident and some people who are not. Even a rich and famous movie star, who many people envy and consider to have it all, gets nervous at times because he or she wants to perform well. Competence versus confidence. Are confidence and competence the same thing? No. In fact, they are quite distinct, and understanding the difference is essential. Competence is defined as the ability to do something, and confidence is defined as your belief about your competence. Each of us has individual experiences, beliefs, and values that make us perceive life in our own individual way. Everyone has his or her own perception of reality, a unique model of the world. This means that it is only a perception and not reality. The empowering part of this idea is that these beliefs can be changed and, in turn, change one's perception of life. This means that the exercises and strategies described in this book will change your beliefs and your perception of what is possible for yourself. Confidence without competence. It is an absolute recipe for disaster to lack competence, yet possess and project unjustified confidence. Take, for example, someone who has never flown a plane before, but has ridden on a plane and thinks he is now an ace pilot since he read a book once on it a decade ago. Would you let that person fly you across the country? I would get off that plane so fast that people would think I was a blur. You can easily see how there are numerous examples of confidence without competence and why it's dangerous. Competence without confidence. People who are competent and yet lacking in confidence are stuck in a quagmire. They might have a perfect understanding of some powerful concepts without ever taking action. Someone who has the knowledge and competence to do something and does nothing instead is no better off than someone who is clueless and incompetent. When I was getting started in real estate investment, I was the classic example of competence without confidence. I studied real estate. I read 10 books, took 3 home study courses, attended a seminar, and signed up for 2 mentoring programs. Still, I was stuck big time in a quagmire that I wasn't even aware one could get caught in. I saw others being successful and knew exactly what they were doing and how they were doing it. When I asked them about it, they confirmed to me that they were doing exactly what I was only thinking about. What was holding me back? It was my lack of confidence and my fear of the unknown. I would have had to know absolutely everything about all of real estate before taking any action at all. So I kept studying and studying, trying in vain to learn everything so I could actually get started. Meanwhile, the people around me had their businesses taking off because they were taking action. The 4 levels of competence. There are 4 different levels of competence that people go through as they develop any skill. Those 4 levels are unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, and unconscious competence. You will travel through these stages as you reach unstoppable confidence. Unconscious incompetence. Unconscious incompetence means you do not possess a skill, nor are you even aware of how useful that skill could be. Someone who is extremely shy and does not even recognize how beneficial learning how to be more confident would be to him or her could be considered unconsciously incompetent in the area of confidence. I spent the first 20 years of my life like this. Being shy, I knew no other way of being. Nor was I cognizant of the fact that other people didn't have to live trapped in shy shells. By listening to this book, you've already passed through this stage of unconscious incompetence. Picking up this book means you are looking for a better way to live, which means you are at least at the next stage, or perhaps further, on your unstoppable confidence journey. Conscious incompetence. When I was in college, I finally looked around and realized just how shy I was, and that other people were actually confident. I had moved to the second level of skill development, which is that of conscious incompetence. I became aware of just how shy I was. When we become aware of something lacking in our lives, that is a great opportunity because it means we get a chance to improve our lives. When I became conscious of my incompetence, I began reading numerous self-help books and doing exercises. I attended seminars, watched videos, and basically tried anything to further my confidence. The more I worked on myself, in the same way that you are doing now by listening to this book, the further I moved toward conscious competence. Conscious competence. Conscious competence is a state of being in which you can apply a skill, and yet you have to consciously think about applying the skill. The skill is not yet a habit for you. The vast majority of you at this point in the book are probably consciously, unstoppably confident. You know how to be confident, and now it's a matter of developing this into a habit. Give yourself the gift of your own 21-day unstoppable confidence challenge. Deliberately practice your confidence for 21 consecutive days until you reach the skill level of unconscious competence. Unconscious competence. The fourth level of skill development is called unconscious competence. This is the ultimate stage of any skill. Unconscious competence is the state at which a skill has become ingrained as a habit. You no longer have to spend your time thinking about applying the skill. People who are masters at what they do function at the level of unconscious competence. If someone were to inquire about how specifically they perform at such high levels, they might not be able to verbally describe what they do. The reason for this is that they are no longer conscious of what they do in order to perform such great feats. Competence plus confidence equals success. Being unstoppable means having both the competence and the confidence and going for it. This is what this book is all about. When you have the competence to do what you want and the confidence to follow through and take action, you are unstoppable. Chapter 4. The 9 Factors of Unstoppable Confidence. Courage is the first of human qualities because it is the quality which guarantees all others. Winston Churchill. Now that we've defined what confidence is and isn't, let's look at the 9 factors that stand between you and unstoppable confidence. You must learn and memorize all of them if you wish to master this program and make your dreams come true. The 9 factors are as follows: experience, perception, decisiveness, empowerment, goals, action, motivation, momentum, commitment. Factor 1. Experience. There are certain beliefs that are more empowering than others when you are doing something for the first time. How you perform the first time you take on a new challenge will affect how you perform when faced with it again later. Believing the following affirmations will enable you to achieve greater results more quickly. There's a first time for everything. When doing something for the first time, remember, the first time I do this is the hardest. Each and every time I do this, it gets easier. When I succeed, I will study my actions so I can improve even more. If I don't get the right outcome, I'll learn from my mistakes and do things differently next time. It does get easier. Keep these affirmations in mind as you overcome difficult tasks and tackle adversity in the form of something you have not done before. The Confidence/Success Cycle. In this book, I've given you many generalizations about confidence. It's important, though, to define what confidence means to you specifically. What do you expect to see, hear, and feel when you experience confidence? The reason it's important to know is so that when you achieve the level of confidence you desire, you will know that you have arrived. With ultimate confidence in yourself, other people will believe in you too. Also, your belief in yourself will increase exponentially as others come to count on you. You will have the confidence to risk stepping outside of your comfort zone, and you will find yourself achieving things that were previously impossible. This, in turn, will give you more confidence, and others will believe in you even further. This concept is the basis for the confidence/success cycle. Your confidence and success increase cyclically as you continue to push the limits and achieve like you never have before. Factor 2. Perception. In the course of this book, I've introduced you to a lot of new concepts, some of which you've probably accepted straight away, and others that you've no doubt had to think about more. I'll continue to give you new concepts and ideas that may challenge your old way of thinking. For instance, you may not believe this next concept, a key concept of neurolinguistic programming, or NLP, described in more detail in the introduction, at first. But as you think about it carefully, you'll realize how pervasively it applies to your life already. Are you ready? What does it mean? Meaning does not exist as a concrete reality. It is purely a subjective phenomenon of perception. How you think about something is entirely up to you. You can put a positive or negative frame around whatever experience you have in life. Since you always have a choice to either laugh or cry based on the experience, do whichever you prefer. I prefer laughing, so I find myself doing that more often. A friend of mine told me this story. He was sitting on a bench in a park right next to a rather large crack in the sidewalk. A man came by, tripped on the crack, and fell face first into the bushes next to the sidewalk. Dusting himself off, he quickly got up and glanced around to see if anyone was watching. Unfortunately for him, my friend was watching the entire episode. Noticing this, the man turned several shades of red before hurrying away as fast as he could. Later that same night, a woman came walking along the same path. At the same place in the sidewalk, she tripped and fell flat on her back. Her spontaneous reaction was to let loose with a full belly laugh. She laughed so hard she began crying. She acted as if the slip was the funniest experience ever, and it seemed she could not stop herself from laughing. By the time her laughter had died down, my friend was staring at her. Nonchalantly, she picked herself up, smiled, and acknowledged my friend, and happily darted off into the night. The meaning of any experience, event, or interaction can vary widely between two people because it's their choice as to what they make of it. If someone offers you an insult, remember that it's only that person's opinion. By adopting this useful belief, you can move through the world more prepared to deal with anything life throws at you. Contrast this with the way some people take insults personally and waste their valuable time and energy being bothered by them. You are a meaning maker, and if you perceive some comment to be derogatory, stop yourself and give it a more positive spin. Do this because you can. Remember, nobody else has the power to determine your own perception of events. Only you. In my own life, I had a business project that went sour. For a while, I spent my time being bitter and frustrated, stuck in a victim mentality. Finally, I started to ask myself questions like, what can I learn from this experience? What does the outcome of this project really mean? When I asked myself these questions, I immediately recognized that I had shifted into a more useful mentality. What had been a sore point for me became an opportunity to look at the adversity as a challenge. It was now up to me to rise above and conquer a difficult situation in order to achieve the right outcome. That is exactly what happened. Had I latched onto that victim mentality and refused to let go, I never would have completed my business project. Anytime you choose, you can change your perception and create a new meaning for something. Factor 3. Decisiveness. It's easy to identify people who have unstoppable confidence just by watching the way they make decisions. The deciding factor. Confident people make decisions rapidly and with a sense of finality. Once a decision is made, they are committed to it. They rarely change their minds. Confident people never waver because they know what they want. As we saw earlier in the book, it is imperative to know what you want beforehand. That way, when either an opportunity or a problem presents itself, you can think hard and ask yourself, hey, is this congruent with what I want? Does this coincide with my personal policies and my integrity? Asking yourself these questions allows you to size up the decision you're making so that you can come back with a decisive, confident answer. The steps of confident decision-making. Prior to undertaking anything, there are some things you have to know about yourself. This may sound simple enough, but it is sometimes very difficult to know what is in your heart. What is it that you want? What is your ultimate goal? What are the personal policies that influence your integrity? Who are you? What is it you stand for? What are the acceptable and unacceptable outcomes for your goal? Asking yourself these questions when faced with any kind of decision will help you with confident decision-making. Before anything else, you need to take an inventory of yourself. Get to know yourself, who you are, what you stand for, where you are going, and how you're going to get there. When you know the answers, everything else becomes very simple. Now, if a question, a problem, or an opportunity arises, you need to size up the situation from all angles in order to be a confident decision maker. Look at it from your position. Look at it from the other side. Look at how your position will affect you over time. If you were to say yes to this decision and move forward with it, how would it impact your life? Imagine yourself a few months down the road after having said yes to this decision. Imagine 1 year, 5 years. How is your life? Think about how the future might be if you said no. What might your life be like then? What might it be like a few weeks from now, a few months, a few years? Once you see the picture clearly in your mind, decide if it's congruent with your goals. Let your goals be your roadmap. Trust your internal voice. Another difference between people who have unstoppable confidence and those who do not is that people with unstoppable confidence trust their internal voices. Although they listen to others for feedback, they tend to rely more and place more weight on their own internal voice than the voices of those around them. People who lack unstoppable confidence tend to listen to the voices of those around them far too much. This leads to a propensity for conformist thinking, because people listening to and following everyone else will naturally become like everyone else. People who are unstoppable have to rely on their internal voice. Otherwise, they would allow everyone else with stinking thinking to convince them that whatever goals they are seeking to accomplish cannot be achieved. Listening to your internal voice means that you recognize what is valid, useful feedback and what is negative, destructive criticism. People who listen to their internal voice are said to have an internal frame of reference. People who follow the voices of others are said to have an external frame of reference. Internal and external frames of reference. The way to discover your personal style in this matter, if you haven't already, is to ask yourself the following questions. If nobody told you, would you know what to do? How do you know you've done a great job? Does someone else need to give you answers? Who decides if you're getting the best use out of your time? As you answer each of these questions honestly, you might notice a pattern emerging. If your answers are based on others' feedback, right now you have an external frame of reference. If your answers are based on your internal voice or your gut feeling, you have an internal frame of reference. Factor 4. Empowerment. When you are unstoppably confident, there is a powerful difference between you and the normal population. The difference is control. You have more control over your environment, over your emotional state, over your beliefs, and ultimately over your actions. That is the simple difference between people who are empowered and people who are not. People who are not empowered have excuses. Control. People who are not empowered have all the reasons why it is impossible to be, do, or have something. Those who are unstoppable realize that everything they want to do is under their control. They are the masters of their own universe. If they don't know how to do something, they realize that there's some other resource that will teach them how to do it. I like to think of myself as a reverse paranoid. A reverse paranoid is a person who thinks that the universe is perfect and that everybody on the planet wants to help him or her achieve his or her dreams. By the law of reciprocity, in order to fulfill my dreams, I'm going to help others make their dreams come true. The universe works for and rewards those who serve others. The greater the energy that you put forth, coupled with the service you provide others, the better the results you will enjoy. When you ask yourself, how can I be of service to others today? You will experience a paradigm shift of great proportions. Greater empowerment equals more choices. Empowered people simply have more choices than disempowered people. People who do not allow themselves to find other choices available to them are likely to become disempowered. Always contemplate the number of choices you have in any given situation and do your best to generate more options. Perhaps there is an option you have not thought of that would be ideal. All you need to do now to empower yourself is to think of a solution and then act on it. With greater empowerment comes a truer sense of freedom because you have the liberty to choose from more options. Adding more options to your life. There's an easy way to add more options to your life. Pay attention to how people use language. Language indicates how we view the world, and it can either empower us or limit us through what we say. Some people use their language to try to force limitations on you. Anytime someone offers you only 2 choices, beware. Ask yourself if there are other choices that have not been mentioned. Is there anything stopping you from choosing both options? The more options you have, the more empowered you are, which means you will have a greater chance of success. Salespeople are taught to intentionally use language to limit our apparent choices. For example, let's suppose you found a certain model of automobile you like. The salesperson might say something to the effect of, "Now that you've decided on this car, would you like to pay with cash or do you want to finance it through us?" This question automatically assumes that you are going to purchase the car, with the only remaining detail being how specifically you want to pay for it. Even if you did want to purchase the car, there might be another payment option that the salesperson's limiting statement hasn't covered. What if there were a hybrid part cash, part financing option? That is not reflected in the salesperson's statement. Here are some questions to generate more options when you are presented with only a few. What's stopping us from doing both or all the options? What other options haven't we examined yet? Are these our only options? Disempowered people simply find themselves to be lacking choices and are thus compelled to act upon their addictions, not out of choice, but out of sheer necessity. Even if we were to consider psychopathic criminals, they appear as if they are forced to perform their evil deeds. In interviews, they often reveal how they went to great lengths to cover up what they did because they internally understood that it was wrong. Inevitably, the question gets posed to them of why they perpetrated the violent acts, if they truly understood the acts were immoral and wrong. They acknowledged that while they knew it was wrong, they felt as if they had no other options, and their criminal acts were their only choice. Again, this is simply their perception of reality. I'm not condoning or apologizing for criminal behavior, but rather pointing out the fact that people need to make better choices for themselves, and to do that, they first need to become aware of those choices and realize their validity. The initial step to becoming more empowered is to eliminate the belief that you have few choices and replace that belief with the knowledge that you have many choices. You always have the freedom to choose. No matter what the situation, even in times when there is apparently a lack of choice, there really is a solution. When you keep this belief as you go through life, you will find you have an enriched sense of control over your life, which escapes most people. Factor 5. Goals. A natural complement to unstoppable confidence is being goal-oriented. Goal orientation and confidence form a combination that will make all of your dreams come true. Set some goals. Have the foresight to know what you want out of life. Set up your long-term goals so that when they are fully realized, you will find yourself living your dream. With your long-term vision defined, plan out your medium-range goals. These are the goals that are in between your immediate, short-term ones and your long-term vision. When you accomplish your medium-term goals, you will know you are on the right track to achieving everything you want. Break down all of your medium-range goals into smaller, more immediate goals that you will accomplish in the next year. Then, continue breaking down the goals until you have monthly and then weekly ones. Finally, you will have specific actions to undertake each and every day in order to move you ultimately toward your dream life. Set an outcome for everything you do and live life with purpose. You will be glad that you did. The way a climber reaches the summit of a mountain is to continue putting one foot after another toward the top. It's the same way one runs a marathon, one step at a time. What is essential is to always keep going, never quit. Do it now. A Harvard study on goal setting took place in the 1950s, and there was a follow-up study in the 1980s. The study in the 1950s showed that only 3% of the respondents had set goals at the time of their graduation. By the 1980s, this 3% was financially worth more than the remaining 97% combined. These people had focus and direction, and these were displayed by the setting of their goals. To gain the maximum benefit from this book, we will begin this journey we are taking together by setting goals, your own personal goals. Outcomes versus goals. Outcomes and goals are similar in scope, but they have subtle differences. Goals typically have weightier stakes attached, whereas an outcome is a mini goal that you desire from a particular situation. A goal is a dream with a deadline. When I hang out with my friends, the outcome I want is simply for us to have a good time. I don't have a goal when I'm hanging out with them. My most recent goal in life is to sell a certain number of copies of this book within the next year. The magnitude of this goal and this outcome differ. Though outcomes are much smaller in scope, they are still very useful. By identifying what you want out of any activity or interaction, you will be much more likely to obtain it. If I didn't know what I wanted out of an interaction or activity, how would I know how to proceed? I wouldn't. After you decide on your outcome or goal, figure out what it's going to take to accomplish it. What kind of person will you have to be in order to make your dreams come true? Once you know, commit to becoming that kind of person. Smart questions for making SMART goals. Stop for a moment and answer these questions. What do you want to get out of this book? What's stopping you from getting this right now? What's important to you about achieving your goals? What will it be like for you to have unstoppable confidence? What will having unstoppable confidence do for you? Are you ready to eliminate all your fear, uncertainty, hesitation, and doubt forever? How will you know when you have unstoppable confidence? After answering these questions, you are now ready to set a SMART goal for yourself. The acronym SMART stands for Specific, Measurable, Achievable, Realistic, Timed. Specific. You make an outcome specific when you state what you will see, hear, feel, and experience. These will help to provide points you can check to verify that you have undoubtedly achieved your desired outcome. A general outcome might be, I want to get confidence out of this book. That does not work as well as the following specific outcome. I want to gain 2 specific strategies for eliminating my fear of changing jobs and gain confidence in knowing I will succeed at whatever job I have. Measurable. Your outcome is measurable when you have a clear way to know whether you have met it or not. An immeasurable outcome is, I will become confident by the end of this book from using the techniques described in it. While confidence is sometimes difficult to measure, you can get creative and find ways to do just that. A more measurable outcome is, I will make more direct eye contact with people in my new job. I will maintain confident physiology, posture, and bearing, and I will be more outgoing by initiating conversations with my coworkers. Achievable. Ensure that your outcome is achievable, that it is physically viable for you to accomplish. Ensure that you have a good likelihood of success. Remember that while you are unstoppable and you can achieve anything you desire, you must simultaneously plan a smooth progression, a driving movement from point A to point B that stretches your comfort zone as you march toward success. Avoid setting yourself up for frustration by setting an outcome that is unattainable in a realistic time frame. Plan your progression. Know the small steps along the way that will lead you to your ultimate goals. Set achievable goals, achieve them, and reset your goals even higher. If you feel like the shyest person in the world right now, setting a goal to instantly be the life of the party will only set you up for a rude awakening. You can and will be the life of the party if you want, eventually. But first, begin with these early steps, like talking to strangers and confidently asking about how they're doing. Realistic. Realistic outcomes are outcomes that are, by definition, obtainable. If you want to grow wings and fly, that is not going to happen. Asking for an unrealistic outcome only sets you up for failure. When you set realistic outcomes, you will be proud of yourself when you achieve them. Before Neil Armstrong landed on the moon, few people in America believed it was possible. However, a team of U.S. scientists knew that it would work in theory. To this end, they designed the Apollo missions that went to the moon, and the rest is history. as long as your outcome has a basis in reality or theoretical feasibility, it is realistic. Timed. Make sure your outcome is timed by attaching a specific deadline to its accomplishment. I often ask people what their dreams are, and as they start to glow with euphoria, they describe them to me in perfect detail. Later on in the conversation, I inevitably ask them what their goals are, immediate, short-term, and long-term. Their goals, if any, are radically different and do not bear any resemblance to their dreams. Their dreams are what they really want. Those dreams are unlikely to be achieved unless there is a deadline attached, along with a workable plan on how to achieve them. Goals are dreams with deadlines. Impotent goals do nothing for one's motivation. That is why it is so important to have an outcome for this book and a timeline as to when you want to achieve your specific, measurable results. A good example is, by the time I finish this book, after I gain unstoppable confidence, I will be able to walk up to any stranger and introduce myself. Another good example is, I will feel calm and relaxed when talking to strangers in social situations. Setting a goal contract. Along with all the other goals you are setting, I want you to set a goal for your confidence. I want you to set a specific, measurable, achievable goal for your confidence, and I want you to see it through to the finish. I've used this concept in the past for goals in all areas of my life, and I always find it to be amazingly effective. Write out your goal using all of the SMART criteria that we have discussed, and at the bottom of the page, make a space for your signature, your name, and the date. At the top of this sheet, give it the title of Goal Contract. The legal definition of a contract is a meeting of minds, so as you write out this contract and sign it, think of it as a meeting of your conscious and your unconscious minds. This becomes a legally binding document, a legal contract that you must execute because of its binding power. Whether it's asking someone out for a date or demanding a raise from your boss, I want you to make it a goal to assert yourself confidently in at least one area of your life by a certain date in the near future. Remember, you're under contract. Factor 6. Action. Two young women both attended the same graduating class in college 15 years ago. Samantha became a lawyer, and Kathy worked as an engineer in the high technology field. They both are proud parents with successful careers and faithful marriages. They own their own homes and, by all appearances, seem to lead happy lives. The only thing missing is a sense of fulfillment in their careers. While they are both technically successful at their careers, they are equally disenchanted with them. Samantha does not find what she is doing fulfilling, and neither does Kathy. They used to eagerly look forward to work every day. 15 years later, however, something inside each of them has changed, and they no longer find their careers rewarding. They both would rather pursue their true passions. Samantha has always loved baking and wants to open her own bakery. She learned how to bake as a child and has always enjoyed it. Samantha knows that if she could own a bakery, it would be a smashing success. She envisions people coming from miles around to purchase her baked goods. Kathy has always loved music. She grew up listening to music every spare moment she could and singing in her church choir. She currently sings in her women's group, yet she visualizes what it would be like for her to be a pop singer with her own CD, performing for vast audiences across the country. Fast forward 5 years. Samantha, while still yearning to open her bakery, has taken no action to actually make her dream come true. During each day that passes, she feels like she is wasting time at her job while she lives someone else's dream. Instead of jumping out of bed in the morning, she has to nag herself internally until she rolls out of bed and heads into work. She yearns for Fridays and absolutely despises Mondays. Spending the majority of her waking hours doing something she finds despicable, she feels as if she is wasting her life. Kathy has taken tremendous action in the past 5 years and consequently has an album out, tours the region, and has the kind of fan response that creates sold-out shows. The ideal lifestyle that she dreamt of 5 years ago has manifested itself through her efforts. She cherishes each and every moment of her life. The time she spends on stage singing is the time when she feels that she is the most alive. She doesn't just exist. She knows she is living well. It seems as if her life gets better and better each and every day. Sure, she's had her struggles in launching her own CD and getting her name to be recognized. She had countless people tell her no. In the face of defeat, she persisted. She never quit. It would have been easier to stay at her old job, and yet it would have been tremendously unfulfilling. Kathy paid the price through her commitment to live her dreams, and she ultimately made them come true. Samantha and Kathy both had dreams and visions for their respective futures. Kathy took action and fulfilled her dreams. Samantha did not. The difference between the two is that Kathy had the confidence to put her plan into motion by taking action. Samantha lacked the confidence. But the techniques Kathy practiced, combined with the attitudes and beliefs she and other successful people hold while they pursue their dreams, these can be learned and put into use. Most successful people may not be consciously aware of these techniques, but it's subliminally applied techniques like these that helps people like them achieve their intended results. Put it into action. Confidence comes by finding out what specifically you want, making a plan to get it, and putting your plan into action. If you're doing well, ask yourself how it is that you're doing so well, and consequently, you will know how to apply yourself and do even better. If you haven't been getting the results you want yet, evaluate what you're doing wrong, adjust your behavior accordingly, and do things differently. As much as I'd like to say that all you have to do is incorporate these mental techniques into your life to get confidence, the truth is that unstoppable confidence comes from doing. These mental techniques will help you out, guaranteed. Yet the most confident people out there are confident because they have proven to themselves over and over again that they have reasons to be confident, because they have succeeded so many times. These people know in the deepest parts of their minds, bodies, and souls that they are capable doers. The process of gaining confidence requires action. The goal contract you set in the preceding section isn't going to fulfill itself. You will need to do something. Only taking action can get you the undisputed real confidence that you desire and deserve. Factor 7. Motivation. Another key to being a go-getter is how you motivate yourself. Do you motivate yourself with pleasure or with pain? Do you think about all the excellence you want in your life or all the trouble you want to avoid? You motivate yourself in one of those ways, and only you know which one. Are you moving toward your goals, or are you moving away from problems? Methods of motivation. Both strategies can be effective in certain contexts. For example, trial lawyers often use a pain avoidance strategy in order to construct strong cases for their clients. They seek to minimize any damages that the opposing attorney might try to inflict by creating strong counter-arguments. The strategy of being pleasure-motivated can be equally effective. In fact, a majority of the most successful people who have close family relationships, massive financial success, and career satisfaction have motivation strategies drawing on the pleasure principle. You may have already realized which motivation style you predominantly utilize. In having unstoppable confidence, I encourage you to focus mostly on having a positive motivation strategy, allowing you to seek better things in your life. The most successful people have the positive motivation, and if we want the same results, then naturally we should follow suit. The value of negative motivation. While having a strategy to move toward excellence can be beneficial in certain circumstances, there are times when you can also benefit by having a strategy that moves you away from pain. Since we all move toward pleasure or away from pain, we are always motivated to some degree by one or the other, and sometimes by both. Because I wanted to get this book done in a timely manner, not only did I commit myself to moving toward the pleasure of having the book published, but I also instituted a monetary fine on myself for not meeting my writing goals. After I began using this pain avoidance motivation, my efforts skyrocketed and I became tremendously more productive. As you think about how I've applied this, you can begin to see all the ways in which you can utilize toward pleasure and away from pain motivation methods in your life. When you set up your away from pain strategy, make the negative incentive something more than slightly annoying, but not a catastrophe, just in case some unforeseeable event leaves you unable to achieve your outcome. Your strategies ought to be proportional to the magnitude of the goal you have set. Here's an example. If you're on a diet and you have a piece of cake, you obviously wouldn't punish yourself by fasting for the rest of the week. That would be ridiculous. You want your pleasure rewards and pain punishments to be commensurate with the goal. Instead, if you eat some chocolate cake while you're on a diet, you might figure out how many calories you ingested so that the next time you work out, you will burn that many extra calories beyond your normal workout. Make it a habit to stay motivated. Remember, people become addicted to various things all the time. Gambling, drugs, and alcohol are a few of the many destructive addictions people have. The secret is to aim our addictions in a positive direction. People who have unstoppable confidence have it because confidence is a positive habit of theirs. What makes the difference in our lives is the quality of the habits we form. Each of us has habits already. Let's empower ourselves to have only positive, life-affirming habits and addictions. Habits are tremendously powerful. Without them, there'd be so many decisions to make each day that we'd easily go on information overload, as if we weren't almost there already. Habits simplify our lives by making it so we don't always have to think about what to do. We just do it. That's why it's critical to develop good habits. On your goal contract, make it one of your goals to develop the confidence habit. Make it another goal to pay attention as you become more and more confident. Evaluate your progress. Keep a confidence journal. I strongly recommend you keep a confidence journal so you can see just how far you've come. By the time you are fully aware that you have unstoppable confidence, you'll review your journal and naturally you'll be amazed to discover just how differently you think and feel. By regularly reviewing your journal, you'll also be able to immediately correct yourself so that you can have more confidence in the present and stay motivated toward your future goals. In your journal, feel free to jot down notes on what specific techniques from this book you will utilize in the next interaction to cause you to be even more confident. Factor 8. Momentum. Momentum is very valuable for increasing your confidence level. One of Newton's laws of physics states that an object at rest tends to stay at rest unless it is acted upon by an outside force. Similarly, an object in motion tends to stay in motion. Applying the same law to confidence shows that if you are at rest, it may be a bit difficult to begin increasing your confidence. However, after overcoming the initial resistance, the rate at which you gain confidence in yourself will soon accelerate. For people who have unstoppable confidence, it's even easier to accelerate the rate at which you gain confidence. Stop for a moment and take a survey of how much momentum you have in your life. Are you in motion? Are you out there making it happen? Or are you going a little slower? Only you can honestly judge this for yourself. Do you need to crank it up a notch? No matter where you are, you can always increase your momentum. The best way to do this is by starting small. As you continue to take small steps each and every day, you draw closer and closer to your goals. The small things add up, and pretty soon, you will be leading the life of your dreams. After you're at the top of your mountain, having fulfilled all your goals, you can look back at what you've done and marvel at how all those small actions you took led up to your massive success. These small actions can be any number of things. They can even be simple steps to educate yourself on the goal you've set your sights on, buying books, attending seminars, and so on. The way I became a full-time real estate investing entrepreneur was by subscribing to the aforementioned strategy. I learned a branch of real estate investing called creative real estate investing that requires neither money nor credit, because when I started, I had neither. What I did to allow me to go full-time into the business was that I read a lot of books, attended a few seminars on real estate, made some offers on houses each week, and made calls to sellers after work each day. Every day you are either moving toward your goals or away from them. Personally, I want to always be moving further toward them. Momentum is infinitely powerful, and you can make it work for you or against you. Make it work for you. Factor 9. Commitment. When people commit themselves to their destiny, they go for it full tilt and consequently achieve their goals. Master motivational speaker Anthony Robbins says, "Success is cutting off all of your options for failure." As you realize what you specifically want out of life and decide that you're willing to pay the price to achieve it, you must be willing to commit yourself and cut off all options that lead to anything less than achieving your goal. Commitment is very powerful in fulfilling your dreams. Many people say, "Don't burn your bridges." I'm just the opposite. I say, learn to burn and burn very well. Find out what you want to do, commit yourself to it 100%, and then burn away any options for failure. Ask yourself about all the excuses that might prevent you from accomplishing your goal. After you do that, go through and torch each bridge so that the only option is success, because you've committed yourself to that result. When I left my corporate job as an engineer in a major semiconductor company, I committed myself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to living the lifestyle of my dreams by burning all of my bridges. All of my ties to the company and potential for getting my job back instantly vanished as options. Even if I went back begging for a job, no job would be available to me. Success became the only option. You can do the same thing with your goal. Decide what you want, commit to it, and systematically burn all the bridges that might stand in your way.